Hello, you're very welcome to the Overlap Rugby podcast. I'm Shane, that's Daragh, and this is episode number 50. Well, hey.
Hey.
Yeah, little milestone for ourselves reached. This is the half century. Very good.
Sweet. Yeah. Happy about that.
Thanks to all our subs, our loyal subs who have stuck with us. We really appreciate it.
And the new subs.
We
like them too.
So we're going to get straight into it. It's going to be a slightly shorter show than our kind of usual bonanza ones over the last little while, just because there's probably slightly less rugby now that we're getting into the kind of condensed post-season buzz. There are just fewer teams playing to preview.
Still some very big games this week, and glad to see the Premiership and the top couture are finally getting to things are mattering, and that's good. We got the last domestic week of the top couture coming up this week, which we'll talk about, and then we've also got the Premiership semi-finals coinciding with our main event of the evening, the Pro 14 final, which is going to be contested obviously on Saturday evening in Celtic Park between Leinster and Glasgow. And it's actually, for all of you rugby junkies out there, it's going to be a very fun day in the sense that it's basically a triple header. You've got your Premiership semi-final, Pro 14 final all in a row. Barely a moment to go to the bathroom between them.
Well, there will be moments to do just that, but that's it. That's a quality lineup of rugby, to be honest, and some good fixtures in and amongst all of that. To be honest, they're good games, one and all, and I suppose we're gonna start with the big one, which is the final of it in that sense. Leinster and Glasgow. Or Glasgow and Leinster, really.
Glasgow and Leinster, Celtic, not to mention
Celtic,
they finished on more points.
They did, despite Leinster being top from or being qualified from ridiculously early in the season.
It's Glasgow v Leinster in every sense.
And I think I would be, were I the bookie, I would be erring on the Glasgow side as well. I'd say probably odds are like 55-45 in their favour.
I had meant to actually look up what the bookies are saying out of this one just out of curiosity, but I never did. But my thought would have been that Glasgow would be slight favourites, just on a roll. They have been on some roll this end of season form. There's no question. They're playing with this consistent style of theirs. I'm really happy for Dave Rennie, just as it's almost like as a season review, no matter what happens, just because he did have a rough start. We always knew he was such a great coach. We saw what he was doing with that Chiefs team. They were playing beautiful rugby, but he was copping some flack after first season anyway. There was inconsistency in their play. He was backing this style that wasn't working. It was all very loosey-goosey. Those young halfbacks weren't coping all that well. And he's stuck to his guns, stuck to his philosophy, stuck to what he believes works, and it's coming up trumps for him this year. Listen, they're not the best team in Europe, but they're close to the best team in the Pro 14, and they gave Sarries a run, and they've obviously beaten Leinster. I think they did the double over Leinster. They're right
as we were
there.
Saying before, it's like having to play that Sarries team 3 times in your European campaign really does skew where 100%. You are entirely. They finish second in their group, just barely qualify, and have to play Sarries again. It's kind of not really a gauge at all as to where they are. And then felt like something similar the year before, where their domestic form wasn't related or didn't translate into Europe, but no doubt about at this time of the year how dangerous they are, and that's been the case for years, since before Dave Rennie's there as well. They have a kind of they're used to playing running rugby at this time of year, and their style suits it more in this hemisphere as well. When it gets to this time of year, and then the pitches dry up and they're a bit faster track.
I can't imagine that the soccer pitch in Celtic Park will be much of a difference either. I'd say that's going to be a smooth surface.
I'd say so. Exactly. Maybe it won't be quite as like the 4G. Obviously has its own little quirks in terms of just how the ball bounces and stuff. But
players get their knees cut off them, and
there's that too. But in terms of things like attacking kicks, pay more dividends on them because they're more likely to sit up and stuff. But I'd say that could be similar on the soccer pitch as well. So both sides will be looking to kind of move the ball around a bit.
For sure.
It's going to be an interesting question as to whether Leinster's defence, which has been so stellar, is kind of hard to read though, because you're looking on the last few challenges they've had are very different to what Glasgow bring, in terms of Sarries were probing them and there was a fair bit of scramble going on.
Toulouse is comparable, I would say.
Toulouse is comparable, yes, and the blueprint will be those Toulouse games where they manage to hold the ball successfully against them
and break Toulouse ultimately,
essentially. So there is precedent for Leinster doing a job on teams like this, and there are certainly areas that Glasgow will be concerned with, things like the youth of the halfbacks, coupling with Josh's magnificent return last week in terms of a harrying number 7 to hassle Hastings will definitely be a part of the plan.
Very much a key part of where this game goes, because we've seen Price and Hastings looking both very good and very bad this year, and they've kind of been the making or breaking of what Glasgow have done. And we watched them against Ulster last week, and both of them were just making exceptional plays. There was some beautiful passing from Adam Hastings, doing almost like a Cipriani impression, and then Ali Price as well was finding his try on the blind side, constantly testing those fringes. But it's probably true that Leinster, with their kind of pack, that Hastings isn't going to get the kind of space that he'd be used to. And certainly I think they'd want to be hiding him behind a forward pod for the most part if they're going to go wide off him, rather than having him be first receiver, because you feel like Leinster are going to get a rush on. And as for space around the fringes for Ali, you would expect that Leinster are going to really come at that area pretty hard. There's not going to be those gaps. If Ali is slow off the base, or if the ruck isn't resourced well, you would expect a Leinster forward or even Luke McGrath to be coming through that ruck and hassling him and giving him less space and less time. And a key to the game is going to be whether Glasgow can protect their halfbacks, and how their halfbacks are going to cope with having just that little bit less space and a little bit more pressure.
And if they can maintain their speed of ruck ball and their transferring at the point of contact, then there is space to be found there, because they've shown an ability, like the likes of against the likes of Sarries, to, when they're on it, they can shift it wide very, very quickly, and it means that the harrying defence in the midfield is kind of bypassed by excellent passing. So that
was a lesser Leinster team, but the job they did on Leinster and Dublin is a decent blueprint for them. They did keep that flow going. A big key for them is what they do in the tight as well. They do get they're resourcing their offensive breakdown pretty well, but they get quick. Their forwards are very capable of handling the ball. They get quick ruck ball. They go and they go and they go. And their offloading game in their pack is pretty key as well. It's the question is whether they can get that off against the likes of James Ryan and Scott Fardy, who are going to be pretty tough guys to get your hands free through. Even winning a contact against them is a rare thing. So they may have to be a little smarter about where they attack and how they attack. And for Leinster's part, they're going to have to obviously resource that narrower channel quite heavily, lean on the two centres to make their plays in the middle of the
I'm
field.
thinking the two centres blocking off passing lanes and getting up.
Yeah, well, the thing about blocking off passing lanes is that Adam Hastings in particular has a really long, flowy passing. There isn't room to block the passing lane against him if he's going to. He can do a double skip pass, and there's no feasible way to block that passing lane. So it's possible that they might just number up, ease off a little bit, back the guys to make the reads when they have to be made, make their tackles when they have to be made. But a key is to keep resourcing the width of the field. Your wingers can't drift in, because Glasgow will go and they'll flood those wide channels with players, and they'll get tries because the support lines of Glasgow, once they make
that's what'll be stark difference compared to watching those semi-finals for both those teams, but particularly for Leinster, because Leinster's defence has been stellar, and you can watch just the way they kept Sarries at bay for large periods of that final was great. Against Munster, their defence was exceptional to keep them that out like that, but Munster really created nothing. Like the picture of a game like that game against Munster is nothing like what Glasgow will bring, because that Munster team were literally nowhere near finding a try at all against Leinster.
And that's for all of Leinster's defensive chops. I mean, that's been a theme of Munster's season.
Yeah, no, it's not that's not entirely like I can only recall one genuine gap and it was Tyburn off 9, but it was a big skip pass off Conor Murray in the first half that put Tyburn through a little half gap. But
those kinds of plays will be if Leinster are slow around the corner, those kinds of plays will be key for Glasgow, because they're the antithesis to Munster in terms of capitalising on those line breaks.
They're always trying
to up the tempo. They don't slow it down after a line break. They raise the tempo. They raise the temperature. They keep you scrambling, and they keep targeting that space, and that's when Adam Hastings has a bit of space and a bit of time on the ball, coming onto it at pace, and he can just see where the gap is and where the defence, where the areas aren't resourced, and he can pick the right pass. And that's where Glasgow get a lot of their tries.
And you'd be foolhardy to think that they won't get tries at all, and it would take a very smothering, suffocating Leinster-led blanket of a performance where
like that 13-3 from Saracens.
That's been the picture of they can be stopped that way. They have a tendency to want to go very wide, very fast, and if you do, just maintain your discipline in terms of not overcommitting at the ruck and backing yourself. Like, this is the other thing, is like it helps to have physical advantages in all the kind of man-to-man matches.
I feel like Leinster
do,
certainly
not to the same extent as Sarries,
no,
but because obviously Leinster were outmatched in that area by Sarries themselves. But Leinster in general are quite a physical team anyway, and want to play the game
in the tight for sure.
Yeah,
but even in the
centres, you're looking at the centres, and they're quite a marauding defensive pair as well, and it's all the kind of hits, and then once it gets out wide, the likes of James Lowe doesn't shy away from shooting and putting in a big hit as well.
They are just as a unit. Leinster's defence is developing a habit, and even Robbie Henshaw, who's the best defender in the province, but certainly Gary Ringrose and James Lowe are developing just a bit of a nasty habit of hitting but not sticking, of getting through the contact, making an excellent read, getting a hit in, but not quite sticking the channel. And there are slippery buggers in that Glasgow team, like Hogg and like Sam Johnson, who will, if they're not put down, they'll keep going, and all of a sudden they're bursting through, or they found an offload, and things can go from a good situation with a good read, you've shut them down, to you didn't stick the tackle, and all of a sudden we're in big trouble.
It doesn't tend to lead to too much. Like there's a lot of times when Leinster in a defensive set like missed tackles, particularly in areas like Ringrose is often like has stats where he's missed a load of tackles, but really when you look at the tackles, they're not actually missed tackles, they're more like he's blocking off the outside and shuffling them back inside.
There's no question, but it like I agree with that point, but it has its issues, and certainly they're just leaning on a little too much, coming out of the line, forcing him back inside away from the space. But like I say, if you're a slippery guy, and then all of a sudden instead of having Gary shut you down behind the gain line, you're kind of bursting through and you have to hustle play against a forward on the inside, you can get through and you can at least get some hands free. And that's what Glasgow have the ability to do. It's the key for Glasgow is their support lines, is that it's great, everyone's on the same page, everyone is thinking deep. Everyone's wanting a line break, everyone in the whole line is wanting a line break, and then as soon as it happens they're on it, and it's a race to see who's going to score the try.
Well, they're always looking for the killer pass, like the criticisms we have of that Munster team and their just lack of an ability to look for the try in terms of what they brought against Leinster. Glasgow have the opposite, where even sometimes they just show a little lack of patience or a little impertinence to maybe like try a speculative attacking little chip or something that coughs up possession rather cheaply if it doesn't come off. But when it does come off, you have those beautiful try, like the horn to horn try that has been a recurring theme but has been a recurring theme of the year. Was just like little brother Hogg comes on, or actually both of them are coming off the bench these days now, but that little off the base of the ruck chip, they have that little telepathy going on. It's such an audacious
Peter Horn himself after that try scored through in the run up to George Horn's try, through just a delightful Finn Russell-esque pass off his left hand as well.
I remember that one. They're two technical little players actually.
It's incredible. It just means that it doesn't stop when the replacements come on. It doesn't stop. Even whether you bring Horn on for Johnson or for Hastings, Peter Horn that is. No matter as the game goes on, the tempo only increases. The hunt for tries only continues. But it like Saracens' best performance of the year was keeping Glasgow to 3 points. I still maintain. It was probably their most complete game from a defensive perspective anyway. And that's the picture for Leinster, and Glasgow even in that game were hustling and hustling and hustling. So from Leinster's perspective, it's not really a case like you get on some teams, even Scotland's sometimes, and Toulouse, when Leinster played Toulouse, it's like it was a question of just 30 minutes of good physical rugby and we've broken them. Their spirit is broken, and then the next time they get the ball, instead of being the flowy guys that they were, they're dropping the ball and they're falling over each other, and
doesn't
all
tend
of a
to happen
sudden
with Glasgow.
it doesn't. They keep trying.
They look for tries.
And even in that Saracens game where they got 50 put on them, I mean they were out on their feet for sure in that game,
but
when they have the ball, they're always dangerous. So maybe from Leinster's perspective, you're thinking, keep the ball. I think that's likely where the Leinster coaching ticket will go. It's what worked for them against Toulouse twice.
Are they going to back their high ball and their box kicks over?
They'll exit with the box kick.
They'll
exit with the box kick.
They normally do. Van der Merwe and Seymour underneath them.
They're as good as that back three is as good as any. That's a test level back three, especially off counter attack. The problem is that Luke McGrath's box kicks aren't very good.
That is the problem. The tactics perfectly sound, but they tend to go a bit wayward, and we can't really contest them. So we managed shutting down. Maybe a false sense of security with that Munster side, though. I don't know if it's good prep to come in for a Glasgow game against that Munster team and feeling good about getting that kind of solid win against the rivals.
It was more satisfying from just a personal perspective.
It was nice to see what we were suspecting, that Leinster did have just more as a rugby team, and then similarly Glasgow and Ulster was also what we were suspecting. It's just like Glasgow are a stronger team.
Glasgow are also, they're not just a stronger team, they're also in a much better headspace right now. I mean, you've seen this in teams before. Scarlets is the one that really springs to mind towards the back end of their winning campaign in 2017, where a team is just playing flawlessly. They're all on the same page. They've clicked, they have momentum, they're just in flow and in form and in tempo, and they're driven. They really want to win something. They want it to end in silverware. It's peaking at the right time of year, and there's no question that, in my mind, there's no question that Glasgow are going to perform on Saturday. And then the question is, are Leinster going to be good enough to deal with it?
Yeah, and it is seemingly offense against defense when you're framing it that way. You're looking at Glasgow being the offensive team in this fixture, but obviously both are going to try and attack. It's just not that kind of the picture of the game.
Leinster have an offense as well. They're going to be looking for scores. There's a couple of key areas that are less backline oriented. I mean, the forward battle is as intriguing, and not just at the breakdown. I mean,
scrum.
Ulster got some penalties against Glasgow at the scrum last week. That's a concern.
You've got to think that Cian, Healy, and Tig Furlong, and then
that
Porter off the bench.
That whole front row. It hasn't been as good off the bench this year for Leinster, no question.
But Porter's been absent for chunks of it.
He has, but even Ed Byrne was a little better than Jack McGrath. Obviously, bringing Jack McGrath in for the Saracens game was madness. But Cian Healy is the elite scrummager in Leinster, and he does a lot of the work. Even last week, like, Kilcoyne was getting one or two off against Tig, but Cian Healy, that was where it was that Glasgow Tighthead was giving away a couple of penalties, so that's certainly where
it got to be a point of concern for them. For Glasgow, that is point of like licking your lips if you're Cian Healy, and Leinster will definitely be targeting that area and trying to make it.
It is
that's right. Yeah. But launch some plays off that set piece would be nice as well.
And just get some penalties, and that's what Leinster be thinking. Conversely, for Glasgow, one of the key areas for them this year, not just their flowy attack, has been a very excellent, well-drilled line-out drive. Yeah. Very, very good. Yeah. Brumby's level, they are getting loads of purchase and tries off it. It's compact. It's simple, it's simple and compact, but it works. Yeah. They go around the corner with the new sort of swimming is legal rule. They just keep it straight and drive straight, and rarely do teams get to shut it down. You have to go through the middle to shut it down. And that's a job for probably for Scott Fardy.
Ryan does some of that as well. That Dev is out toner, because that is very much his wheelhouse. Those big long telescopic arms are very good for spoiling mauls.
That's the only in the modern game for defensive mauls. You do occasionally see someone stop a maul with great body shape and physicality and numbers, where they're just holding up a maul, but they also have their angles perfect from either side, so they can't spin off, and then they have to use the ball. But with a great maul that's well formed, that has a bit of momentum, your only real hustle to stop it, other than pulling it down and giving away a penalty, is for someone to legally come through and get their hands on the ball carrier
and wrap them up.
Which is very exciting as well, because as soon as you do that, there's a scrum on, there's a turnover on, and that's where the attacking scrum half has to
have eyes on the ball.
And that's an area that Ali Price has been lacking.
Luke McGrath tends to be good in that area. He kind of has a little forward oriented little head on him.
Sometimes he just goes into the maul.
He does join it prematurely, but Ali Price can be guilty of backline watching while the ball's getting
totally chatting to Adam Hastings or Finn Russell, as the case may be.
It's a bad habit. I know it's one that annoys you as a.
It's such an interesting area, and the point is that everything can be going great in your attacking maul, and then opposing lock gets a hand on the ball carrier, and 2 seconds later you're doomed. It's going to be a scrum to the opposition. So that's
the onus is on the halfback.
Leinster be doing a lot of work on that.
They'll be looking at that. Because and then the other side of that as well. But whatever about sacking the maul is just keeping the penalty count down, so you're not having to defend mauls in that area as well. Which is you just invite loads of pressure onto yourselves for leaking those kinds of things.
The penalties come from line breaks. That's the original thing. Leinster don't tend to give penalties off first phase, but you will see if Glasgow get a couple of line breaks and they're pushing out a try, Leinster, like any mature, I guess you'd say, team will have their cynical plays in them.
They will. In coming towards the red zone, but not quite cardable red zone. That kind of little grey area, just in the edge of the 22 and stuff after the first line break.
And that's where Glasgow gets some purchase. It's Nigel Owens refereeing, by the way. So he I was going to say no complaints, but he has been inspiring some complaints this year. But
True.
I trust
I
him.
tend to like his flowy.
I tell you what,
approach.
that's bad news for Cian Healy though, just because he doesn't look.
He
at
doesn't
scrums.
ping scrums. Actually, that is a factor. Because he'll just say use it despite all the winning of the scrum.
A scrum can be doing anything. The tight head can be up, he can be down, the scrum can be on the floor, and I'm just going to want that ball out of there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I approve on that one.
No, I don't approve of that. I like scrum wonks as my referees.
Well, it's like the Talkators have an appreciation for that. It's where all those 3-point games come from, but there's probably a balance in between to be struck. But
for sure.
My thought is like it's somewhat dangerous to let a scrum that's collapsed or
keep driving.
Keep driving.
100%.
It's like 100%. You shouldn't do that. You should penalise the ones that are infringing by not keeping it square and straight. But that's a bit of a digression. But it is a huge factor in the game, and actually, the fact the ref does have an influence in those areas. So that'll probably be an avenue that Leinster will want to pursue, but will have they know Nige as well as any other team, and
in fact, given that
they may scrum for solid.
They probably won't target that area strongly just because it's not wise against Nige. The same with slowing up the ball. It's good news for Glasgow because it just means that Leinster cynically slowing up the ball kind of shit that's going to get you pinned. Like that's a Scott Fardy yellow card waiting to happen if that's your game plan.
Indeed,
and so
which we have been shipping under pressure, under quick ball.
There's guys lying on the wrong side. And
hands are going in, and it is very often Scott Fardy who's rather cynically hands all over that thing.
And like I say, the mature, grizzled veteran
indeed knows what needs to be done.
But it has its negatives. That's a winning picture for Glasgow if you start to see that.
Sure.
There are winning pictures for Leinster though, as you say. It starts with that sort of buzz stat of the moment that everyone's talking about, which is sort of dominant carries or collisions.
The collision zone essentially.
The collision zone.
We've seen a fair few times when Leinster have got the better of this Glasgow team. That has been the story. It's like Glasgow are getting smashed and they just can't get a rhythm going.
And that's it. And it's
stifled all the time.
And for whatever about when they do have the ball, they are always going to be dangerous. But it will take its toll if Leinster hold the ball for long periods, carry relatively narrow, and then just consistently Glasgow are going backwards and they're losing contacts, and Johnny Gray's having to make a million tackles. Although Johnny May made a million tackles the last time Glasgow played Leinster, and while it was a secondary Leinster team, they absorbed all of that pressure, and when they had the ball, they struck. And that's a lesson for Leinster in the sense that if they do think they're going to grind out a 16-0 or 16-3 kind of win, it's a dangerous game to play against a side that loves tries as much as Glasgow.
It also feels like it's against Leinster because like Glasgow have a wonderful attacking mindset, but Leinster do as well have like an ethos of kind of attacking rugby and the grinding element of it, which is from top down in terms of it's how Ireland play the game. But to be overly attritional and overly reliant on running overheads, well, you saw against Sarries how it falls short. But it's not the most economical way of playing.
It puts the onus on the defence, and if it's almost like saying you can't withstand this, you're going to physically crumble. But then when the defence doesn't crumble, that is,
it has a kind of a flip effect where it's like you're hoping that psychologically you're going to break the opponents with this kind of unrelenting assault on their physicality, but then when they repel you and sustain it flips, and then suddenly all the doubt is like on you, pivoted onto you. It's like, oh wait, we just held the ball for 10 minutes and didn't score.
Exactly.
In defence of Leinster now, despite doing a lot more of that this year than in years gone by, their conversion rate in the red zone is still excellent.
And listen, they got the balance very right against Toulouse in the second game they played them in the semi-final, where it wasn't just that hold the ball and grind them out. There was sharpness to their attack, and the way that they found that James Lowe try was excellent. Like that was one of the tries of the season. It was brilliant. And even last week with Kearney, the front row show was very good as well. So certainly
that was shout out to that. It was an excellent moment.
Beautiful. Cian Healy bringing back memories of Bod. That centre position.
Straight and give.
And it was
also point of order on last week as well. Just something I was saying off camera to you about Munster, and like obviously Munster season is done. We put a pin in it, and it's not about them anymore. But just thinking, they were 10 points down with 15 minutes to go, and they took off Joey Carberry. what's going on? Like, put him at 15. What is going on in this country? He's not allowed to play 15.
He's not allowed to play 15. There's no question that's right. Ever since they made that move, they've tried to turn him into 10. But from Munster's perspective, when they got to find something, they have no attacking shape. That's definitely true. It's a digression, but it's definitely true. And it's to be further explored, because both of us, I think, are on board the Carberry wears the 15 jersey for Ireland train.
Well, it has to happen now.
Well, that's our theory anyway, and we'll get into that more as the World Cup
comes down. There's previews to be done, and obviously we'll talk about Munster's season in that context, because it will influence that. But in the meantime, there's no more opportunity to talk about them. Similarly, Ulster signed off on there, just to kind of, I suppose, wrap up on that. Ulster signed off on that. We had thought in our preview that it was going to be Stockdale at 15, which would have been nice, but Balakoon pulled up injured and relegated.
It was definitely a theory. A moment in that game was definitely when Michael Lowry came in, and he came in obviously last minute, and he really did have a horror show.
Struggled.
He actually looked slow out there, which wasn't like him, and he was his turn slow. He wasn't gathering the ball. He was at a size disadvantage for the high kicks, and Glasgow punished him at every turn. And Leinster may fear, although Larmour is 3 times the player that
Lowry is for now. Lowry is potential.
But certainly Leinster may fear something similar. I suspect they are. Well, I think it's obvious that they're going to go for Rob Kearney, because as we'll get into in the news, it looks like he's leaving.
Looks like his last game. Will they go for Sean O'Brien on the same reasons?
No, I don't think so. Maybe on the bench over Max Deegan. They can't start him. They can't start Ruddock. The back row played very well last week. The back row, that's Leinster's back row at the moment. Is Ruddock, Van der Fleer and Conan. There's no space for Shawnee. No room for sentiment in the final, I'm afraid.
It's interesting.
Shawnee's a legend, but don't get me wrong, and he could probably do a job off the bench. Certainly Max Deegan hasn't been lighting it up.
It's true, and he's more physical than him.
So. That's no beef, but I wouldn't put Shawnee, the way he's been missing tackles, out against that Glasgow team, because a missed tackle is
death against them. It's true, and it's the utmost respect to Glasgow to say it, but it's true. They're a dangerous side, a fundamentally dangerous side, and if they manage to get their scrum solid, and if they manage to get their line out going, and their line out
to shut down what Leinster do in attack, crucially.
It's
curious what Leinster will do in attack. Are Leinster going to be getting the ball into Lowe's hands? Presumably Sexton starts this week. I thought he should have started last week. I still think that, but he did come on and do a job. He looked as good off the bench as he's looked off the bench, to be honest, which he doesn't usually come on and influence games that way. But I think it is Sexton's jersey this week, and Sexton likes Lowe. He likes him a lot. He likes to put him into space.
He does. Those centres will be trying to probe and test some questions of Glasgow's physicality in that area. Although Johnson's
it's a job for Seymour in defence. Like he's a great attacker, but he's not like an elite level defender. He's going to have a very physical, very difficult guy in James Lowe coming at him.
He's one of the toughest guys in his league to mark on that wing in that 11 jersey. He's genuinely one of the more dangerous prospects.
So that's a winning picture for Leinster if you start seeing Lowe running over Seymour.
That'll be lovely. And I've seen, Seymour has been known to, like, he kind of tends to try and he does the same thing Johnny Sexton does, where he's actually quite a big lad, so he tends to go in a bit high for the wrap, and so sometimes when it goes wrong, it can look very bad when he's just getting bounced off into the middle of nowhere, and you're going, oh dear, Tommy, that's not good. Probably not a good picture if you're a Glaswegian when that happens.
No, indeed.
He's very, very good with ball in hand, but sometimes a little suspect without. But and DTH Van der Merwe as well is just back, and he's obviously a big physical unit as well, but Leinster will probably be trying to test his just his minutes. There'll be a lot of talk about Leinster from Leinster on the amount of minutes and match fitness and stuff, and that's very important.
I don't think they'll be targeting him specifically. They'll have Larmour up against him on that wing.
True.
I don't think there's going to be much going on there, other than they'll occasionally get the ball into Larmour's hands. You will see that match up from time to time. Conversely, DTH is a very physical man, and Jordan Larmour is quite slight in contact. So you could say the same thing about Glasgow on that wing, getting a one up on Larmour for sure. Larmour also is shooting too much these days as well.
He is, and he was caught out in the final of the Champions Cup for one of the tries. He is shooting very, very narrow, and that's a danger against Glasgow, because again,
I'd say it again, when Hastings is on the ball, the intercept is so rarely on, because he puts air on his passes.
It's like the inclination. It's a complete flip switch, as I've said, compared to the semi-final where you're dealing with Munster, where it's like, we know what Munster are going to do. We're just going to fan out. Not even particularly far, because they're not going any further.
No, there were times in that match when it was all played between the two 15s.
And it's like this comparatively, because their instinct is just to go off 9. If things are going well, we'll just go off 9. If things have just gone badly, we'll reset off 9. And all of that is just off 9, so you know exactly where to resource. Whereas with Glasgow, it's nearly the opposite. It's like we won't go off 9
until we do.
Until we do, and then there's but it's only to find a gap. It's not to find another jersey to run into. So it's like their inclination, even when they can't see it, or even when it's man and ball arriving at the same time, their inclination is to flip it out. So you do have to keep your width, which means they won't be firing themselves willy nilly into breakdowns. They'll be trying to keep men on their feet in defence. Leinster trying to blanket across, and probably trusting the likes of Josh to be the harrying influence.
Josh is key. Like
he needs to target his breakdowns.
He was super good against Munster. Like he's an incredible player. And when he's on his form, like he's probably even better than Levy on it. Like he's certainly in terms of consistency.
He's more technical. I think he's so beautifully technical in everything that he does.
You would suspect that he will have more longevity in him than Levy for sure.
If he manages to steer clear of the injuries, you just don't know.
Whoever's at their most effect. But my point is that even though he has had some injuries, his way of playing isn't nearly as attritional as Levy's.
Who fires himself into
exactly.
everything.
So whoever's actually better at their peak is almost hard to know, but certainly Josh, you would suspect, has more longevity. But for a big game like this is like Josh is made for this, shutting down Glasgow, getting the big turnovers just when they need them.
Himself, and I think Cian Healy will have license to go for 1 or 2. Porter
he's been doing it.
Henshaw came up with a great steal last week as well, which is good to see in the set, because there'll be contacts in the centre and there'll be contestable rucks going there.
100%. So and Henshaw's a big frame. Good frame for it. So for sure that's a key area, obviously, and it's a tough one to call. Because I can see pictures for both. But my instinct is
I'm saying just about thinking Glasgow, but then I'm also pedigree and preference or precedence, and the fact that I said whoever loses the Champions Cup final will win the their league. So I'm gonna say that Leinster win, even though I think it's probably 55-45 in Glasgow's favour. Well, but it's close.
On your call of Leinster, I'm gonna have to disagree again. My instinct says, just for a couple of reasons, I've thought all season that just where Leinster are at and have been this year, that actually 2 final losses in a frustrating Clermont way, but it actually is kind of where they're at this year. They have simmered down a little bit, and just the way I'm looking at Glasgow, just in form on everything else. Maybe if the game was next week and there was an extra week, my answer would change. And Leinster do have a habit of booking these trends in big games, but they couldn't book the trend of Saracens, who looked the best team in the all year, and Glasgow are just going like a freight train. And they've 2 wins. They've 2 wins over Leinster. They've arguably got Leinster figured out. Dave Rennie is playing a blinder at the moment. They're playing like old school Chiefs.
They are. That's what we were excited for when we heard the news that Dave Rennie was coming up to coach the Warriors, which was great. Because like Gregor had done such a great job of laying that foundation for what is now the Scotland beautiful attack from top to bottom. So Dave Rennie was a perfect, very natural kind of successor in that regard, because he's just going to add to it.
And perhaps, I know Stuart Hogg is going, but perhaps Aaron Cruden be wearing a Glasgow jersey next week. Also Hogg's last game. There's all kinds of reasons.
That's true too. Yes, so we have Hogg and Kearney, the 2 boys, fullbacks last games, and they're like 2 completely different ways of playing that position, which is one of the great beautiful things about the game. Is just like there's so many different schools of thought on different areas. So we have one of the foremost. This is kind of a microcosm of why it's a defense. We're framing Leinster as the defensive team rather than the offensive team of Glasgow. You're looking at Stewie Hogg versus Rob Kearney attributally and what they actually do for a team. And both are like stellar international level players, but completely different.
Totally.
And it's great. Yeah.
Although Rob has been getting his offensive plays off.
He was one of the few clean line breaks we had against Saracens. It was great.
You do have to tackle him when he's in there.
He's very physical.
He'll run at your jersey, but you have to tackle him. And But no, my instinct says Glasgow. My heart obviously is all Leinster.
I'm voting with my heart anyway.
But instinct says Glasgow. I've been wrong before though, and you've been right before. So let's hope that's how it goes.
It's a wash. But we're rooting for Leinster for the last time this year. Last time this side of the World Cup, we're getting proper.
That's right.
Kind of consequence-filled club games. And it's
Pro 14 games. Obviously, the next couple of weeks. The other 2 have to wrap up.
That's what. I mean, in terms of support, yes, I don't mind watching that little afterthought. That is, but for Leinster and Glasgow, and they are, to be fair, as the league represented, and there's like that whole thing of the league table doesn't argue. They're the two teams that were top. They're the two teams that earned their right to their semi-finals.
Comfortably the two best teams in the league. Comfortably.
Yeah. Top in their conferences consistently now. Yeah, that's 2 years in a row with the conference system, and it's 2 years that these two have topped it. I think, yeah.
No.
I think that weren't Glasgow top of their conference last year?
I feel like no, because why would they be seeded against Saracens in the Champions Cup if they topped their conference? I could be wrong, but I feel like they were struggling under Dave Rennie last year. I don't know, but I
thought they were that top of thing.
Maybe they were. Maybe they
check that. But certainly this year though, they've come on leaps and bounds, and yeah, it's the right final. It's the right final.
It is,
and
100%.
Both of them had very dominant victories in their semi-final, which was the right thing as well. Which is what we were saying about the Champions Cup as well. In those instances, the semis were reflective of, and then even when you look back into the quarters, the fact that they were two very kind of tetchy games between sides that were at a similar level, and then the semis was showing a bit of a divide between these two and the rest. So may the best team win, and may that team be Leinster.
As always. Yeah. Great. Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to talk Premiership.
Yeah.
Premiership came to an exciting conclusion at the weekend.
Woo.
Well, the regular season.
Yes.
We had a lot of wrappings
we were previewing all the permutations that were going on.
Yeah.
But
we actually missed a trick in terms of there's a complicated and convoluted rule for the last place.
Yes.
Which comes from the Challenge Cup. And it means that Sale Sharks, who finished 7th in the Premiership, will qualify for Europe as semi-finalist in the Challenge Cup if and only if La Rochelle, who are currently 7th in the top 14, make the top 6. Then Sale are in, and if they don't, then they're in. Then La Rochelle are in because they were the finalists. So La Rochelle are safe anyway.
Okay, but they have to get into the top 6 in their domestic competition to help
Sale and screw Montpellier. And also have a run at the top 14, too.
Which they would like.
Yeah, of course.
Having lost their final a few weeks back.
So there was all that Premiership permutations, which left Sale, who did, I think, get the win over Gloucester 40-36. They got a good win, and I think Sale now are going to be in if La Rochelle are in. They finished 7th, but they still have a chance. And the team that got it was Bath with a late winner against Leicester.
Yes, that's
having
right,
been miles behind in
Leicester
Welford Road,
somehow contriving to not win games still.
So there will be no Bristol despite their best efforts. Well, actually, not their best efforts. They didn't get the bonus point against who were they? Against Newcastle. And that's good.
That's right. Yeah.
So Bristol didn't quite make it.
But a good season. In terms of solid, have managed to stay up absolutely perfectly. And
So I think the 6 teams in it now, obviously we have our top 4, which we're going to talk about now, but the 6 teams in it are Saracens, Exeter, Gloucester, Northampton, Harlequins, who just missed out in that top 4, and Bath, and then maybe Sale, Sale, and so then there we go, and then the two semi-finals we have, which we're going to start with the first one now, Saracens against Gloucester, which is 2 against 3. I don't know why I have it listed first. It must be the first chronologically if I listed it first, but maybe it isn't.
But it is still Sarries taking precedence.
Sarries taking precedence. Saracens Gloucester. It's not the game I wanted. I wanted Gloucester to go back to Santee Park and win again. But that's a good game, and it's tough for Gloucester. It's a tough game for Gloucester.
That's my instinct when I see this is like Gloucester are a lovely team. They've made great strides this year. They have a lot of balance to them. They're going to get beaten by Sarries.
They have a kind of attack that's conducive to being shut down by Saracens blitz.
It all goes through Sips. Sips,
when it all goes through one man,
it's easy enough to read and shut down.
The other thing is that what 12 trees does under pressure would scare you at times as well.
There'll be loose plays. Like Gloucester are a little loose. The whole Premiership has a tendency, and it's no bones on to say it, but there's a tendency for there just to be a little bit looser play goes on than in the top flight in Europe, and there's some attacking sets and sequences that are built on 1 or 2 soft little carries around the ruck that end up paying dividends. You win contacts that you're thinking a proper organised disciplined defence will not ship those yards, and then off the shipping of those yards a sweeping backline move happens and materialises in a try. You're thinking great, but Sarries are at a level, and especially when it gets to finals mode, then that's when the teams kind of click into gear, and that just doesn't work, and those chances don't present themselves as much.
What I will say is that I think Thorley, who's just back this week,
great.
He has to play. He has to play. He gets
straight in.
Like he should be in the England squad anyway, but he has to play. He has to get in. You got to get him on the ball. That's a danger man for you.
For sure.
And obviously just a massive game for that back three of Ackerman, Creel and Ben Morgan.
Yeah.
That's just, and even Slater and Mostert again. Like they're good players. Are they quite test level players? Like they're all actually just on the fringe. Like every one of them. Ed Slater maybe is just a little even further behind on the fringes, but Franco Mostert is on the fringes of that Springbok team. Has been in it, has been out of it. Same could be said for Jaco Creel. Same could be said for Ackerman. Same could be said for Ben Morgan.
It's a bit of a team of misfit internationals.
As opposed, not quite internationals. A lot of them really just high level of club rugby, but not quite at test level.
Looking
against
at
a bunch of test level monsters.
Monsters at test level. Thinking of what Saris bring, and it's like looking at the Munster games as reference for Gloucester, where you're just thinking like Munster are a very limited side, and Gloucester is particularly in the
Munster game. In the Thomond Park game, Gloucester got a lot off until Cipriani got red carded. That was a shame.
It was.
But,
it was
one of the shames of the season.
It is actually one of the great slights on this season was that ridiculous call that has since they have backpedaled on it. Like that precedent was adhered to,
set and then not adhered to,
set and then removed, because it was just a mistake, and it ruined that game because Gloucester were, for my money, the better side up to that point. And but
that King's home game was telling.
It was, the King's home game that had Munster fans believing that their attack was stellar, even though it wasn't. It was just a broken Gloucester. But it's like you see that a lot, and then you had the likes of Ben Morgan, who was standing in the 10 channel throwing intercept passes instead of doing his physical work. Too often they're a bit soft in that area, and Sarries are just never soft in that area. And I want to see ways that Gloucester can win this game, and I just don't see it happening. I just don't. I see them getting some stuff off. I think they're a good enough attacking side to kind of find one or two
it's
tries.
It's like the Glasgow philosophy. It's got to go wide.
Yeah.
It's got to go wide. Saracens aren't quite as wide in their defence as they were. They've gone back to that blitz that worked so well for them. They're not as well resourced in those tram lines. And that's where you got danger men like Ollie Thorley, who you just got to get the ball to, and you got to keep doing that.
For sure.
If you're Gloucester, it's all about keeping it alive, moving away from the rucks.
A high tariff.
They need to think of themselves as the Fijian Sevens team.
Yes.
Just never have a ruck ever.
Yeah.
Stay away from the forwards, keep going, keep it alive. It's all high risk game, and like you could see Saracens shooting it down, but
or
they
pouncing on it.
Or
Liam Williams intercept tries,
or Liam Williams misreading a shoot, and Ollie Thorley's away. Like it's probably their best chance of getting something off.
It is because they're not going to try and match them physically, or if they do, it's not going to happen.
It'll be Herculean if they did. I'd be impressed. Like they're all technical guys. Those guys are named in that team. I feel like they do have a big performance in them. But it's going to need to be some performance against Saracens. I'm just hoping that that Alex Good is still hanging from his fender or something, and you catch him. I don't know what the crack with Brad Barrett is either. Is he back, or is he we never quite know
whether he's the bionic man anyway, so they're patching him up, they're screwing his arm on, putting some steel plate in his jaw. So he'll be patched up and ready probably to come shooting up and curbing sips.
The other thing about Saracens, which has always been the thing that's almost impressed me most about Saracens, is what they do when they have the ball. And that's the thing about, like, you're playing against Saracens, you're matching them, you're going toe for toe to them, you're actually getting some plays off, they're not shutting you down as much as you'd hoped, and you've managed to build yourself a little lead coming up to half time, but then all of a sudden they have the ball for a period, and they're so accurate what they do. They flood those channels, and that's really where the back row come into it. They've got to stop them at source. They got to get in Farrell's face. They got to get turnovers. But Saracens, again, it's easy to say they got to do this. You try and
then Alex Good's on the ball.
Yeah, exactly. You try and do this, they do that, and that's the whole way they operate. And they have like a completely well-rounded shape that they just are constantly in, and loads of different pictures they can present and loads of different options every time, and they're so good at picking the right one.
Very hard to see Gloucester winning. That being said, it's going to be at the Allianz Arena or Allianz Park, which means it's going to be on the 4G pitch. Both sides are attacking minded. It's going to be high scoring. It's going to be quick.
Nice weather, I think.
Nice weather probably this weekend.
So
so should be a fantastic game. I just think Sarries are gonna.
Yeah, I think it's sort of a Gloucester Ulster, Glasgow Ulster scenario where both sides are good. I actually maybe Gloucester will represent themselves better than Ulster, maybe not. Yeah. But like you would expect something along the lines of 40 something to 20 something.
Yeah.
If like that's your bookies call. Anyway.
I'm thinking something along those lines. Yeah. Tries for the boys.
Tries for the boys.
Ultimately a win for Sarries, which is usually a safe enough bet. We're not actually poking any trends by calling that this week.
We do like Sarries a lot, but that said, the double's always a big ask. It always throws up, like, even when dominant teams have won the Champions Cup and are looking to round up their double in their domestic comp. I know Leinster did it last year, but it often proves trickier than that.
Yeah, you can slip up if the intensity drops off and you lose that realization. And it's like, oh shit. This team that we beat earlier in the season, they've actually just been training for 6 weeks to beat us, and they have a bunch of extra tape on us.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, if that Gloucester shows up, like with Ben Morgan at his best and Jaco Creel at his best and Ackerman at his best and Franco Mostert at his best, that whole pack starts playing, and then you get Cipriani with a bit of go forward, and then obviously Thorley gets on the ball. Like, if they play really, really well, Saracens are going to have to be on their blow, and if they're on their blow, they probably will be able to deal with it. But if they're not, that's where the danger is.
That's the picture. Is we're relying on Sarries, like I say, Alex Good to be still staggering, still having asking someone to hold his beer before
Brad
he runs
Barrett's
on.
leg falling off,
something along those lines. That's the picture that I see.
Or Farrell losing the rag.
The picture I see for Glasgow winning. Or not Glasgow, Gloucester winning.
And also, we have that Farrell losing the rag template that happened in the Six Nations.
That's true. It doesn't tend to happen on a sunny day in Allianz Park. That's not ever what happens.
No. He hasn't got Finn Russell doing mad things against him.
He doesn't have Sips doing some mad things.
Sips isn't quite Finn though.
No. But interesting English connotations, obviously, as we're getting towards this part of the season, the knockout stage of the Premiership. It's all interesting stuff.
The real question is not Cipriani v Farrell. The real question is Cipriani v Ford.
Indeed.
That's the real question.
Bottom of the table. Nearly bottom of the table, Leicester with captain.
No, Ford is Ford. Oh, he's still with Leicester. He's not with Bath.
No,
sorry. Bath is Priestland.
Priestland and Freddie Burns actually. Freddie Burns v George Ford. Another comparable thing. No, you're for my money, you have to put Sips on the bench for England. Like George Ford doesn't do enough.
I agree. He won Premiership Player of the Year, which is in our little other news segment towards the end. But he won Premiership Player of the Year this year, which was a good little political call, but also probably a fair call.
It is a fair call. He's been lighting it up, and from what I've seen from highlights packages, his passing game is on point. And the only times Gloucester lose games, it's not the 10 who's doing it. It's that they're a little soft in the pack, and there's no 10 in the world who can make up that difference a lot of the time when they're faced with just negative contact after negative contact, and then loose play and then turnover, try coughed up.
They're going to have to be serious. They're going to have to have to step up in every area.
That being said, I'm saying Sarries play about 15 or so.
We'll see, but probably around that. With something to spare is what I said for Glasgow over Ulster, which covers a lot of bases.
Broad strokes. It probably doesn't box us in as much, but we're going to say Sarries for that. This other one is a bit more interesting competitively. I think Exeter Northampton. I think it's a bit more interesting. I think it has a bit more kind of stuff on the line in terms of
Nairo Foro on the ball.
This is it. I want to see Bigger have a decent game for Northampton.
He's just going to be throwing the ball to Nairo Foro.
Indeed, and who else is it? Reinach is it's an interesting.
Cobus Reinach,
It's a mad little halfback pairing that only.
It's good halfback
pairing. Exactly. Yeah, it's just
Reinach is class. Reinach should go with the Springboks.
You should. But he should.
So says the Northampton coach anyway. But he should. He might.
Hopefully he will. Brilliantly. Yeah. Northampton have been resurgent this year and back in it, and Exeter, to be fair, they did score a few tries at the weekend, which was
they did, but that's the thing, is that they break teams, and they broke Northampton, and like Northampton are going to come back at them. I know they actually, it is in Northampton's legacy to do that, where they lose by a massive score to a team and then beat them. Like they do that all the time. I remember against Biarritz way back in the day when Biarritz got 30 points maximum that you can get in your pool in Champions Cup, and Northampton got through in second place with 20 because they maxed out against every other team but got curbed the two times they played Biarritz. Drew Biarritz and San Sebastian and only went and won the game.
There you go.
A few years back, they did against Leinster. They did against Munster. Ulster was the other one when they shipped a massive defeat one week and then came back and won the next.
So there's precedent for that in the club.
But there's that little history there, but the game against Exeter at the weekend was kind of telling that Northampton were going for it. They didn't know that they needed to they didn't know whether or not they were going to need to win. So they were going for it, and they were toe to toe with Exeter. They got some plays off in that first half. They definitely have some tries in them, but as with just about every Premiership team, seemingly, save Gloucester and Saracens, they can't live with Exeter and their physicality, and at about 60 minutes it just tells, and Exeter run away with it, and that's just a constant picture that has been cemented time after time after time this season. Doesn't mean it's going to happen again, obviously. Just because something's happening doesn't mean it's going to keep happening. But
finals footy as well, semi-final footy, if you're talking the Exeter Munster comparison that has been this season. I suppose it's their draw that has kind of cemented that in my brain, as like they are two sides of the same coin, really, aren't they? They just play a very similar game, both of them. I think Exeter,
that was the ugliest game of the season.
It was, but Exeter have a little more in terms of moving the ball somewhat, I think, than Munster, even in terms of endeavour.
They certainly have more shape to them, but so when the going gets tough, they don't resort to it at all.
True, and they don't tend to create too many chances. They just pick and drive and try and wear you out attritionally. So they don't actually try and create that killer moment as often. They just try and make it all about those little micro moments that add up and eventually.
That's why discipline is so key. Like Northampton gave away a lot of penalties last week. It's got to be they got to be really, and Northampton are not a disciplined team.
They're not. They never.
Their set piece isn't great. I mean, they're maybe going to get Hartley back. We don't know yet, and that Hartley coming back might shore up the scrum a little bit. Maybe his line out thrown will be good, but
then he could
be a red card. Away a red card, and that's the key. Like when Northampton start giving away penalties, they just compound their own mistakes. And then when Exeter get some territory and they get their penalties, and
when Exeter are playing a team who are giving away penalties and compounding their mistakes, that's where they're at their most comfortable. It's a game plan refined over seasons for success in the Premiership, seemingly, because it's exactly the right way to play. A lot of Premiership sides is just tighten up, be disciplined, be focused, control the ball, be physical, and wait for them to give away penalties and give away tries. And sure enough, that tends to happen, and it's only when they reach the stumbling block of the higher quality of Europe that is revealed for the limited game plan it is. But I don't know. The point I'm kind of broadly circling back to is like looking at Munster when they came across Leinster in their semi-final, or when they came across Sarries, and just not having enough to answer and not having enough to move on. There's possibilities of Exeter being found out in a similar way, but the question is are Northampton that kind of team?
That's the point. No. The two words that where your comparison falls short is that your two, like it was Leinster and Sarries. There's the two best teams in Europe. So Northampton aren't that.
No.
And what's telling is that they don't. I don't know if their pack will stand up to it. Maybe it would be incredible if they did, but for the most part, it seems unlikely that they're going to be able to stop Exeter from doing what they're doing. But you've seen stranger things. Getting IRFU on that ball, that big man. I can't quite say his name with the same animation that the Aussie commentators, the Fox Sports he used to say when he was a Tasman. He's all class and a game breaker and a touch of the Nadolo about him, in the sense that you just give the ball to him and have him make something happen.
Indeed.
Even off scrappy ball he can make something happen.
This is it. You don't need to be creative when you just have a guy like that. You hand them the pill and they'll make something happen. But two class little games, and I'm expecting it to be a Sarries Exeter final again. And,
I agree with you that this is the more likely upset.
Yes, I would think. Even though I rate Gloucester as probably a better team than
Saracens. Both, the difference between Saracens and everyone else is
so vast.
That Saracens are
it's such a big
kind of unbeatable right now.
Particularly if you're going to Allianz Park.
Actually, to be fair, it's less of a factor with Saracens. They travel so well.
No, it's not even the home,
not having home advantage.
Well, it's partly that, but I think the pitch as well suits their style of play a lot. Their attacking kicks pay dividends on that pitch and stuff, and it's just very hard to contain.
They're very comfortable there.
Even when Glasgow played them on it, and like the first thing that happened is Glasgow score a try, and that's like we're going, oh my god, Glasgow could hear, and then the next thing that happens is Sarri score one, and you're just going,
and Gloucester probably aren't even at the level of Glasgow. I'd back Glasgow to do Gloucester home or away
probably right now.
So certainly you would expect Saracens to get that done, and that's the last game. But Exeter in this game Probably Exeter. Although I must confess, when I've been watching full Premiership games, I've been watching a lot of Gloucester and a lot of Saracens, and when I have seen Exeter, I've been painfully frustrated by their play, but I haven't watched them nearly as much. No, so there's always that question mark when I don't have as much data to go off.
This
with these
is
two
it.
teams.
Yeah, this is it's the same as true. I just haven't been watching as much. To be honest, we've been watching mostly that. Highlights package that BT Sport put together of the Premiership tends to be a good way to
it's
the games.
just little 20-minute highlights. They tend to be 20-minute highlights of the games. That's great. But I have, when I've been watching them live, tried to get like one a week, and it's been Gloucester and Sarries for the most part. I'm glad to say that I watched that try of the year that they scored against Leicester. I watched that live. You missed that one, but I watched that live, and that was just such a fantastic moment. It was like totally around Christmas, had a real Larmour from last year burst onto the scene. But unfortunately, he didn't get embraced by the England team the same way Larmour did by the Irish.
No,
he should go to the World Cup because he's super. Super.
It's true. But ask Christian Wade about their precedent with wingers.
Christian Wade would be like, come to the NFL, bro.
Yeah, he would. No, it's going great over here. Yeah. That's I'm pretty much done on that. Do you have anything else? I'm thinking.
Well, no.
I'm thinking Sarries Exeter.
Sarries Exeter probably.
Probably then Sarries for the double.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about the final next week.
We'll talk about that next week, and we'll see what kind of teams we see, what kind of pictures are presented, who looks the more.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to both games. I'm delighted. I'm going to get to sit down now on Saturday afternoon, not working, not doing nothing. Going to be sitting down, watching those two semi-finals.
Who's going to be the team that's going to try and make the biggest statement? Because semi-finals are a time for making big statements with intent, and who's going to be the team to do that? Could be Northampton. They have a chance. They've managed to make it this far, but it does seem to be up against.
They have a big winger who they can give the ball to.
This is it. Well, it's like the league table doesn't lie in that regard, and it's like they're bottom of the pecking order, aren't they?
They were just about got in over Quins, who I kind of liked as well. I'm kind of sad that Marcus Smith doesn't get a go.
True,
but even
Marcus Smith has been a revelation this year as well. Great season.
One for the future.
Yeah, for sure.
For the future.
Yeah. So it's been a great season for Premiership rugby.
I've enjoyed it. 100%.
It's unfortunate that Newcastle are the ones that have to make way.
Yeah, as a team, they haven't quite been there. And the Premiership powers that be definitely wanted to be Worcester.
I know. Yeah.
Newcastle are too damn valuable. It's a great city. They go to James's Park and damn near fill it sometimes. Yeah. They're too damn valuable to be ring-fenced into the Championship.
Yeah, exactly. They need to get that pocket in the Premiership. It's all about fan base, and we need a resurgent Leicester next year. Has to be a thing. Really, can't be having 2 years.
Well, we'll talk about the latest in that saga in the other news segment with Jordan Murphy and the rest. But I mean, I just as much as you want to see it happen, it just an absolute basket case. They need someone to come in. And the problem with fixing anything at this point in the World Cup cycle is that you do need to wait till after the World Cup to get your hands on proper good coaches.
Indeed, yeah. So it's be signing contracts stipulating that it's like we'll sign you, but you're not here for the pre-season or the first few months of the season.
Literally, you come back from the World Cup 2 weeks later, first Champions Cup game.
Yeah.
So there's no chance to implement anything
at all. You're just going there with whatever you got. Yeah. And then washing your hands of it after the 40-point loss. Well, they're not in Europe next year though.
They're in the Challenge Cup. It's not, but the Challenge Cup.
They're 10. They were
sure. Okay. Everyone.
Gets in. Okay.
The promoted side, I think, will be in.
Right. Okay. Good. Yeah. But it's going to be an interesting one for it. But that is a digression. We'll talk about it later in the other news segment. But for the meantime, watch the semis. Going to be class.
Awesome.
And top 14, top 14. Is also winding up. This is the last weekend.
The last week of the regular season is finally here. It has been a marathon. It hasn't all been enjoyable. I will confess that I stopped watching games that didn't involve Toulouse a long time ago.
It's very hard to watch games that aren't involving Toulouse. Unless
I'm pretty lazy when it comes to my discipline of watching the Premiership things. Like, I'm going to inform myself on the Premiership, or I'm going to inform myself on the top tours. I'm going to watch one game. And I said, I'm just going to watch Saracens and Toulouse again. You do this every week. Do you not want to see what Cast are up to? But I don't really,
not at all.
Turns out.
Yes.
So I'm. The table is interesting for sure.
You're back in the right horse with Toulouse up in the 90s.
Yeah, they're gorgeous. They're still gorgeous. Yeah. It doesn't matter for them this week. It's not like the Premiership where there's factors galore. The only actual big questions of the weekend, I guess there are factors galore in the sense that if Racing and Cast slip up, but they both have pretty easy enough games. They could go out, but in all likelihood it's a straight shootout for 6th between Montpellier and La Rochelle, which, as we discussed earlier in the show, on another video if you're watching this short vid, it does have Champions Cup connotations as well.
It does.
But Montpellier are currently ahead on La Rochelle on points difference, but crucially,
they're both on 66 points.
Yeah, crucially, Montpellier are going to Clermont.
Clermont, who have nothing to play for.
Clermont, who have nothing to play for.
Thinking, but
yeah, they're going to Clermont, where La Rochelle are hosting Bordeaux, and La Rochelle need to better Montpellier's result.
Yeah,
realistically, they should be thinking, let's get a bonus point against Bordeaux. Bordeaux, I think, have the worst away record of anyone in the comp.
Right, and they're out.
They're out. Yeah.
And are they relegated?
No.
They're okay.
They're just in the buffer zone beneath 6th and above 13th.
Right. Yeah.
That big zone full of teams like Toulon and Pau. And Stade, actually. Yeah.
The likes of those teams that I've seen very little rugby from all year.
Yeah, Stade just missed out last week on being able to qualify and making a run of it. It predictably fell short.
Yes, they're not quite. I've seen actually bits of Stade's play this year, and it's not entirely right. They still have Paris kind of going through the motions.
It's all going through the motions.
It's not.
They still have Mornay Stain showing up at fullback.
I know. They're strange.
What a guy!
I have so much respect for that dude. He plays a very non-attritional brand, but it's like he's just gonna keep going forever.
Yeah. Guys slotting kicks.
Yeah. 60-meter kick, no problem.
Yeah. Mornay's the man.
Mornay's got this.
I've always preferred him to Francois. Francois
has a head case.
Yeah.
But the big interesting point that you're making is that La Rochelle versus Montpellier. Well, La Rochelle in Montpellier in the context of the league.
Yeah.
And who would you rather? And on this podcast, I think we're both of the opinion.
Well, certainly
Montpellier need to get out of there.
You were already anti-Montpellier in the same kind of anti-Toulon moneybags way, and certainly what won me over was the very suspicious simultaneous retirement of Nadolo and Nagusa.
Yeah,
that was
shameful stuff, really.
Seemingly, and it couples with more bad news for Fiji, which has just been a constant stream of bad news for Fiji since they went against France.
And then you have words like, Craig Cruden expressing his desire to get the hell out of there. It seems like a toxic place in terms of where rugby talent and potential goes to die, but with lovely food and a lovely city
and a load of South Africans. This is apparently a great town. Andre Pollard is apparently going to go there, which I hope he doesn't.
That'd be terrible. It's just another Bulls for him. Like, he's trying to get away from it all with the Bulls. He's frustrated with not winning anything, but going to Montpellier will be no different. We're looking this up, their history for the last little while. They haven't won a bouclier.
This generation of Montpellier,
they got to a final once in 2015 or something, and that was all. And for
they
all
were
the
money
they spend, and the fact that they've come, we had them in back-to-back
years.
Nothing
they
turned up in Leinster's group,
and they had assembled a very dangerous team.
Yeah, we're looking at a pre-tournament going Montpellier are dangerous, really dangerous,
running away with the top couture at the time.
Yeah, they do a lot of that, actually, running away with the top coutures in the first couple of months. And then ultimately whittling out into kind of mid-table.
They're not particularly well coached. They're not particularly they're just.
They don't look hungry.
They look like mercenaries, and so certainly from that perspective, from a colour perspective as well, there's nothing particularly wrong with the Montpellier fan base. But the La Rochelle fans are great.
Yeah, and just the La Rochelle brand on the pitch as well is great. I really admire the way they try and play the game. They've added a lot of speed to the tournament as a whole for their arrival.
They're definitely a part of the French Renaissance in the last few years, which has sped up the speed of the top coutures. Which I guess was predictable given how attritional it was all getting. It was only a matter of time before someone was like, we're just going to run around these guys.
Yeah, exactly. When you couple a season this long with just big guys running into each other game after game.
That's what we were getting for years in this tournament, and there's been a renaissance led by Toulouse this year, obviously, and Clermont, and the likes of La Rochelle and one or two others.
Yeah, just trying to move the ball a bit quicker, and it's great because it's much more French.
And no doubt going to help their national team in the years to come. I mean, I think there is something of a renaissance, a bounce back. I mean, they're going to have to develop the professionalism that the other nations are getting as well, but there's definitely
it's got to come from top down a bit as well.
More cause for positivity in French rugby, and La Rochelle are definitely a part of that. So I'm super optimistic and hopeful that La Rochelle will get it done,
and that'll mean that Sale will be in, because the other knock-on effect of that will mean that Faf de Klerk is playing Champions Cup rugby, which is something that we all want. We're all very much on board that train here. Is get Faf in the Champions Cup
100%,
and it didn't quite happen because of in the Premiership, because it didn't quite quite fall. They did everything they could, but hasn't quite happened yet. But hopefully La Rochelle can do the business for them, and that'll be beneficial for everyone. La Rochelle and Sale in there.
And Sale, yeah. So 100%. Yeah. But La Rochelle, obviously, you say they don't have anything to play for from a Champions Cup perspective, but they've everything to play for in the top tours. They care massively about it.
Hugely. All teams in it at this point in the year as well. Any team in contention really wants to win.
So it's a big couple of games. It's going to be a fun last weekend. Toulouse, by the way, if you're interested in just doing the me thing and following Toulouse, they've saved their last game to get to 98 points if they backs out. It's their home fixture against Perpignan, which is come on, Perpignan are after shipping however many points, a hat trick against Zebo to Racing. And so
I wonder how many points they've conceded in the season. Actually, go down there. What's their negative points difference? We're just looking at the table here. They've scored 40 tries and shipped 90. And they've scored. They're minus 341 points. Actually, that's not as bad as I thought it would be, although it's pretty horrendous.
They've conceded 767 points in 25 games. If someone wants to divide that up,
it's terrible.
Terrible. So, and they haven't played Toulouse away yet.
So that's going to be
that's not going to improve
a little bit more.
So if you are just not interested in the connotations or the big picture and just want to see Toulouse play some footy, that's a game you could watch.
But it's not even the best Toulouse game because it's just
you just watch Toulouse playing
tries.
Cheslin Colby and scoring loads of tries. And that's always fun.
True.
So it's finally hotting up. We're going to get the first of the quarterfinal is going to be on June 1st after the Pro 14 is all wrapped up. Semi-final June 8th and the final at last on June 15th. And then next week, I think pre-season starts.
It's true. Well, actually, I'm going to make the argument that I think this week probably the game to watch is not the Toulouse game, but the Clermont game.
Clermont against Montpellier, probably. Yeah.
As far as just a competitive fixture,
go on, Damien Pinot,
some stakes and some Pinot, and some Fofana probably.
Camille Lopez and Clermont are also delicious to look at.
If you're not going to watch Toulouse because they're playing Perpignan, which is fair, you can maybe watch Clermont because they're actually playing Montpellier, which is cool.
They give you a heart attack if you're invested in them, though. They'll have it won and then they won't have it won, and then they'll have it won and then they won't have it won. And then they'll lose
somehow. Oh my god! And then you'll have to do a very somber interview. Oh god.
When we were 30 points up, I really thought we
sending out poor Benjamin Kaiser, whose heart's already been through the ringer.
Yeah, well, he's got a bouclier to win.
He does, But so that's Top Couture's getting into the business end as well, finally wrapping up with its regular season. And then I suppose we'll pivot down to the Southern Hemisphere quickly and go through some Super Rugby stuff, which there were a few interesting games actually. We were bigging up the Crusaders last week only for them to draw to the Stormers away, which was actually a great performance from the Stormers as well to put together. It's a lovely try from Cian.
It has to be said because we rail on the attendances in these games so often. The brilliant attendance in Newlands, which is one of the great rugby stadiums, and props to the Cape Town Republic and the Cape Town Public and just in general the organisation of the Stormers for marketing it well, presumably pricing it in a reasonable way and getting a load of fans into Newlands with a good atmosphere. And what happened? They put it up to the Crusaders. They got a bit of fire under the belly that you just can't get when you're playing in front of empty seats.
Exactly.
And so totally they were great. I loved that Cian Khaleesi try at the start of the game.
Love that man. Tee it all up and get the crowd into it.
He could be lifting the World Cup at the end of the year. He's got a drive about him. A real angry drive that's bubbling beneath the surface. But he just really hates losing.
He doesn't like being stopped. He doesn't like losing at all.
You can see how competitive he is, and he's great. And the Stormers were great, and they put it up to them. Although it can't be overlooked that I don't think that pass for the Crusaders try was forward. That was dubiously called forward in the last play. That should have won them the game, but. What are you going to do? Move on?
Play the game, play the whistle. And it was a great result for the Stormers, who have had, again, same as all the South African teams, just up and down, very hard to get a reading on it. One thing we do know is that Cian Khaleesi is all class. On an individual basis, you can see the class acts, but it's very often the team that you're going like scratching your head.
SAFA conference is still super fun. It's super hot.
Yeah, well, like the other thing that happened in that conference, we had the Jags going over to
they're now 6 from 7. Yeah, and the other defeat was a losing bonus point away in New Zealand. Who were they playing?
To the
Highlanders, was it, or Chiefs? Either Highlanders or Chiefs.
I know it was Highlanders.
I think it was Highlanders.
Yeah, because this was the Canes that they managed to stuff in their home patch, and to
comfortably,
like it was an 8-point win in the end, but that last 7
they were
came like in the 82nd minute. They were 15 up in comfort zone, much better than them, and they just look sharp. Like it's like you say, Argentina is awake for the World Cup, and as soon as they do wake up, we know they can play ball.
Yeah, totally.
And they
just a wonderful heads up play about them, and then they do just punish. They also have some super slick set piece moves. That little scything line break ahead of their last try, I think it was.
Beautiful try.
But it was full of deception. I mean, they had essentially the 10, the guy who eventually got the ball, the winger in behind here. 2 runners really narrow off the 10 who ran in opposite directions, took the defenders with them, and all of a sudden this guy comes round into the hole. It's literally old school little rugby moves that work super well against numbered up man coverage defences that New Zealand like to bring to proceedings. It's Rog wouldn't be happy. Rog just watch the ball. They're all watch the man, and like that they're just and then all of a sudden the guy you weren't watching is in the hole, and it was very well crafted. They're full of that, and then when they get it, like almost like Glasgow, when they get a flow to them, they just don't stop. The passes stick, the lines continue.
The chip and chase is gathered.
And then they just are all running support lines, and they just get buzzing, and they got a nice wee maul try in there well.
It's all kind of coming together, because we know their pack is stellar as well. Creevy getting his hands on the ball, it's being organised, they're looking determined. It's great. It's always what we've suspected. We've been waiting for this Jags ever since their inception as an idea, as a concept, and we were looking at their projected team sheet going like, that's a class team. Unquestionably.
Why are they like completely out of the playoff picture? Now they're right in the playoff mix.
It's
and
the same reason it's easy to beat Argentina in November in an off World Cup year. It's just they're not in it as much. Travel is a huge factor for them to play anyone, so it's much easier for them to get in camp.
The question for them now is they've been winning. They've been on tour. They've been winning. They got the business end of the season. There's going to emerge over the next couple of weeks. You're going to see 1 or 2 of those SAFA teams that are in contention. Maybe the Stormers and the Sharks, despite my love for the Sharks, are going to slip out of contention, and it's going to become between the Bulls and the Jags and maybe the Lions will emerge as the guys competing for it. Now the question that the Jags have yet to answer is business time, crunch time. I mean,
can we do it?
I remember seeing old school Super Rugby, Western Force having a great season. A very different team, obviously. They shut everything down instead of opening everything up. But they had a great season, and it was all going swimmingly for them. And then just at the end, they didn't quite make the playoffs. That's where Glasgow. The comparisons are real, though. The Jags are quite like Glasgow, but that's where the Jags are at. Are they going to kick on? Are they good? They're going back. I'm not sure where they're going in the weeks to come, but presumably they're going to go back and get a few home games.
I would hope so.
In the run-in.
They seem to be on the road constantly now.
Where are they? They're away in the Taz next week, so they're probably on the way home from New Zealand through a little bit of Australia. They're on their way back. A convoluted way. They're not going through the Pacific Ocean. They'll have to stop off in South Africa maybe, and then go. Crazy travels.
They go around the world several times. They circumvent the world in a season.
Totally.
It's pretty crazy, but it is a huge factor in dipping performances as well. It's a big part of this league. Is just it's hard to fathom from a European or Eurocentric kind of view.
They are still in Australia in round 16. Sorry, I'm just looking up, and they had home games at the start. I remember. So they've got 2 more games in Australia, and then they're back home to host the Sharks, and then finally the Sunwolves.
Okay.
So hang on. They got Waratahs, Reds, Sharks, Sunwolves. You win all 4. You win the 4.
Yes. This is it. They should be doing they're better than them. So go and do it.
The Rebels away, it might be a tough game. The Taz away might be a tough game. Next 2 weeks, are they going to kick on? They've been great on tour so far. They've done wonderful things in New Zealand. They got a couple of
awful cheap to be gaining points in New Zealand, only to be frittering them away in Australia the week after. It's interesting. Like that was one of my main tidbits of the season, and we had lovely comment from Unbiased Rugby, one of our subs. Thanks very much. But talking about just the fact that if you removed the Crusaders, the Hurricanes,
they're the top 2,
and the Sunwolves,
or the bottom
that
2.
Everyone is kind of within 9 points of each other, which is great. Lovely condensed like competitive field,
and it gets even better when you look at the conferences. I mean, there's 6 points in the whole South African conference. There's 6 points between all 5 teams. That's cool,
brilliant. But then one of my main little suspicions one of my main little curiosities at the outset of Super Rugby was how are the Jags going to look? And that's why I've been so pleasantly surprised, and not even surprised, but like just kind of was half expecting,
validated
a little to be like, yes,
they're not this bad.
They're really good. I maintain they're genuinely really
super
good
rugby players.
So it's good to see them actually performing and getting some wins, getting a few scalps in New Zealand. Excellent.
Yeah, totally. All about it.
Similarly, the Rebels. Showing something.
The Rebels were showing defeat,
but they were showing defeat. Like they're showing something. Same like the Aussie Conference has kind of improved despite the fact that it's got rid of the Western Force, which was its best fan base in half a country.
No, it wasn't. It's still a mistake. I still make the Rebels have become a quality little rugby team. They've assembled basically the Aussie backline in Genia and Quaid. They're all exiles though from where they started, and the Force was just
who's on the wing for them as well. It's
Jack Maddox and Corbetti, and then it could be a Wallaby front row because they got Healy back three rather because they got Healy at fullback. So they got actually a pretty cool backline assembled. So they're all kinds of good, but the Bulls were too strong for them.
True.
Gosh, shout out to Speckman for that super play. That got play of the week in Super Rugby, obviously, but it was just delightful little tackerful sevensy loveliness. Started with a Pollard flash, but then the little chip over the top, the duck to the floor.
Down,
Starting to see a few players do that. We actually saw Rob Kearney do that in a defensive way. In the season. Sitting down on the bouncing ball instead of trying to gather it and catching defenders, and then he picks it up only to dance away and do a little basketball throw, which created a try. And Speckman's a great guy. He's a guy who could be in the Springbok squad because he's thinking tries all the time. There's risk there, but there's also reward.
It's a good way for teams that are so bludgeoning and physical. It's a good thing to have wingers that are lethal.
It's a good thing for Andre Pollard as well. Like Pollard takes a lot of contacts. He's been frustrated of late. He had a great game at the weekend.
He runs took his try very well.
But, exactly. But he's got to be thinking like, he's got to love it when he puts a beautiful pass in that skips and puts his winger in space, and then his winger finishes it. Like he makes the try. You've put him in space and he finishes the sentence. He extends it. He does it. Completes the move. That's a good feeling for a 10, and that puts them in a much more positive space. They are still flaky as hell, and they need to.
I don't back them, to be honest. I find it very hard to bank on the Bulls to do anything come the business end. I actually think they're going to suffer a defeat probably in the quarters or semis stages, just fall
back
short.
Them to make the playoffs anyway.
Probably but then lose in the first round of the playoffs.
Well, speaking of, by the time this is uploaded, in fact, Friday's Super Rugby games, because we're shooting this Thursday evening, but we're going to upload it up on Friday, as doubtless you watching know.
Yes.
So we'll have seen the first two games of the weekend, Chiefs against the Reds. To my money, doesn't matter so much. I think those are two non-playoff teams now. After the Chiefs lost to the Blues last week, I think you can probably write them off.
They started too poorly to ever
they're
really
not,
make a run
but
of it.
it's not just that their team isn't there.
No,
it's not.
Well, couple that with the fact that Mackenzie's out for the season now as well. Like there's
no DMAC, no party, and so it has proved.
No, they have Diet Mackenzie.
Yeah, well, Marty's good. I liked the Mackenzie that was going on, but without DMAC.
Well, they spent the first half of the season with DMAC, him at 10, and then eventually figured out that was wrong, put him back in his proper position.
Just looking good, and then he got injured. It's a crime, and he's not going to be at the World Cup, which is the greatest shame. Also shout out Devin Toner. Hopefully he will be okay. We still have no answers. We should have mentioned that in the Leinster segment, but shout out Dev Toner. Hope he's okay. He's great. What was I going to say? The other game, which actually is kind of interesting, obviously still Aussie conference toppers who we don't talk about that much. The line-out maul of a team.
Yes,
the team that is a line-out maul is the Brumbies are playing host to the Bulls.
It's so funny to watch their highlight reel. It's just like
maul.
It's just maul tries, one after the other, and they're all the same. They just work all the time.
They used to do that even in the days of days of Stephen Moore. It was just like Stephen Moore hat-trick week after week because he was the guy at the back of the maul. And it was gas, and they're still gas. But they're playing the Bulls, and as we were just talking about the Bulls, that game's obviously going to happen, but you'll know at this stage what's happened in that game. That'll be a telling moment for the Bulls, whether they can go back to back in Australia, get what will be a very important win in what is a very competitive conference. It's a game that they should win. They have the physicality to stop what the Brumbies do. They're a stronger team than them around the park, are they going to go to Canberra and get that win?
And if they win, maybe I'll revisit my consensus on them. But if they lose that game, I'll be doubling down. They'll just about scrape their arse into the playoffs and then lose. And
probably
that's my thought on the Bulls this year.
The Saturday games, which we can preview in a bit more. Looking at, you expect the Rebels to go to away into the Sun Bulls. I'm unsure whether that's in Singapore or in Japan.
You wouldn't know, but you'd expect
Japan is the tougher trip.
It is,
Australian
the
team in
gets
particular.
On board.
The Japan is a tougher trip. Singapore is like almost a bigger. It's definitely a bigger trip from Japan than Australia. You would expect the Rebels to do that regardless. And then Crusaders Blues. The Blues technically have a last chance saloon, but not really.
They nearly got them on the first day of the season, and that'll be on both teams' minds. I suspect the Crusaders will win, probably by around 12 or more.
Usually a safe bet to back the Satyrs. Waratahs Jags is huge though for both teams.
It's that's going to be a very pretty game. That's probably my game of the round. Is Waratahs Jags. In fact,
100%. Well, mine is the other game. I'm going to skip by Stormers Highlanders, which is interesting in its own way. Two teams that are thereabouts. Highlanders are still there. They're just. It's coloured by the fact that they're third in their conference, but they're still, points-wise, they're still right with the top teams in South Africa and Australia. But they're just not quite where the Canes and the Satyrs are. So that's a sort of a simmering game. It certainly might be a good watch. And interesting to see what the Stormers do hosting another Kiwi team in Newlands. Will they get the same kind of crowd and everything else? I don't know. But I'll be curious to watch that. But for me, the biggest game is Sharks Lions in the SAFA conference. The winner of that and the loser of that's going to be in a sticky spot going into the last few rounds. The winner of that is going to be in a very good position.
Very strong pole
and the
position,
Sharks have had a load of balls about them all year. Load of hustle. Kerwin Bosch is in at 10. It's a good picture. And the Lions are getting into some form now. So
the Lions looked very good last week against the
Highlanders.
It was the Highlanders, that's right. Little Aaron Smith.
They
were firing some bolts in the first half, but that was at home as well. So
in Ellis Park, the Johannesburg factor is real.
It is a factor. This time, I'm obviously from where we're coming on the podcast. It's good guys, bad guys. Come on, the Sharks.
Come on, the Sharks.
Whoop those Lions. Get them out of there. Get them out of there.
Yeah, but, I love the Sharks.
But the Lions do have a tendency to win these little fixtures.
They do.
When they come around. They do. And then when it's business end of the season and it's which South African team's going to be there.
It's a huge game.
Often ends up being the Lions.
It's a huge game. I'm looking forward to it. It's the season's hotting up in a big way.
This is it. Yeah, we're going to, as we were hinting at last week, we're going to be getting more into our Super Rugby coverage, and then as we wind up towards the Rugby Championship as well. Obviously, that's when
this will be the last weekend that I won't be watching any of these games live because we have that triple header of stacked Saturday games in Europe, and that's where our precedence is going to lie. But we are going to record those games, and I'm definitely going to make a point of watching Sharks, Lions, and Waratahs Jags in particular. I think those are the proper
games. Picks of the bunch.
100%.
But is there anything I think that's it for all the rugby.
Yeah.
But we go and wrap up with the other news of the rugby world, and there were a few little bits. Some of them's kind of conjecture. Obviously, we were chatting a bit earlier on about Rob Kearney going to be leaving. Stewie Hogg is also leaving.
Rob Kearney, we suspect strongly is going to be leaving. We haven't actually gotten confirmation.
No, but there's been talks of like the IRFU have made him rather a stony.
This has been leaked, not confirmed, but leaked that they made him a similar to Sean O'Brien offer. It's also, as we mentioned last week, Sean O'Brien inadvertently weeks ago left a comment on one of Rob's posts saying "Good luck in France, pal," and then deleted it.
Classic Shawnee.
Classic Shawnee behaviour,
indeed.
So it looks like Rob is going to go to France somewhere and get a nice juicy payday.
Can't begrudge him. From
a Leinster perspective, in him and Shawnee, just two colossal servants, and Rob Kearney, the most decorated player in Irish rugby history.
The most successful Irish rugby player of all time is Rob Kearney.
In terms of trophies.
He's got trophies accrued.
And EPCR Player of the Year in 2012 and thoroughly deserving of it that year.
Yeah, he was brilliant. And for longevity in the fullback role.
And in his later career, he's stymied a bit, but if you actually hear him interviewed, like a lot of people fell out with him in the sort of 2016 through 2017 era when he was struggling quite a bit for club and country. But that's what he said. Like he was playing, but what he was saying going into 2018 last year was that he was starting that year for the first time he felt in years feeling fully fit. And he was coming off the field in those previous games in a position where he was like I'm really happy I got through that game with my body intact. I got through it. I didn't make a show of myself. I did okay. And then everyone was just slating him for doing nothing.
Yes.
And that was kind of his situation where he's like, but I survived. Don't you see?
Yes.
My knee was out and my shoulders killing me and I survived.
Yes.
And they're like, score a try.
Yeah.
But then he came into last season, he didn't score tries, but he was brilliant. And he was saying he started fully fit, his body in perfect shape, and then he was brilliant.
Yeah.
And he's become super
be an
smart.
asset to any team, any defence. Would be grateful to have
super
him
professional.
Yeah. So we wish him all the best wherever he ends up as well.
Yeah. The other shout out to George Smith, who has been with Bristol, but he is as old as has been playing forever. I don't know, he's 100 years old, but he's been a legend of the game, a real 7-7, and one of the greats. And he's retiring at long last. He's hanging up his boots.
This is it. It's probably several years after comeback, but he's
class,
amazing,
class,
amazing dude.
Has colored the game beautifully for decades now.
But played in every hemisphere, multiple times. He's known to all, absolute legend, gent by all accounts, and what a servant of the game.
So just a shout out and our love to George Smith. He's class. So there's a couple of bits you're probably going to be wondering anyway, any of you who are watching, why we're not going to mention the Crusader stuff, and I didn't put it in there because I would like a conclusion to it. There feels like there's a lot of conjecture going on.
We're not really in the habit of commenting on spin anyway. If we don't. It's just
there's a load of mixed reports about them doing various bits of bad behaviour in Cape Town, various blokes. But ultimately, it's just rumours and weird seemingly reports and conflicting reports, and we don't know. So if we find out anything solid or any decisions made, we'll talk about it, but we don't really like talking about that stuff anyway.
It's not pretty divorced from the rugby,
but obviously poor form if it's true. The headline news really of the week, the news that has put, I've been in a good mood this show, I've managed to get it back, but the news that has really knocked me out for 6 this week as just terrible news that's actually kind of been buried beneath the other news, which is that of Fiji naming their squad for the World Cup, their initial 38-man training squad, which is just full of buckets and buckets of talent.
Ballers, yes.
Yeah, but it's that the news that came out.
They had to
let go Peter Ryan, who's their defence coach. He's
doing a great job.
Yeah, they've had to cut him loose. He was doing wonderful work. Their defence has improved leaps and bounds in the last years. It's what they built their victory over the French on.
But it turns out they just can't afford to keep a defence coach.
Yeah, well, they can't pay him, and so they cut him loose ahead of a World Cup pre-World Cup training camp, and it's just really sad.
It's such a prevailing thing in rugby. It's just they're under-resourced, and they fly in the face of that because they produce such talent that they can compete. But
Jesus Christ, if they had half of the resources of even in Ireland, they would be champions every time. They are phenomenal rugby nation, and it just breaks your heart that again this seems like the first, actually Nadolo and Nagusa is the first step of what seems to be a mounting negative picture for what at the end of last year looked like could have been such a positive picture for them in their World Cup campaign. I hope they overcome it and they come out and they play brilliant rugby anyway, but without a defence coach, especially a defence coach who's doing such good work, I just don't know. I think that's a huge blow in the modern era to not have a defence coach.
Yeah. To go to the World Cup without one. And again against the likes of Wales.
Yeah. I mean, it's that's exactly what they were doing so well, and it's really, really shit. I can't overstate how shit that news is. Yeah. And I don't even know.
Something needs to change with it.
Yeah.
They're
they need to be supported.
Not getting supported enough for how much they're exploited. It's very disproportionate, the give and take on that side of things. And then reading through that 38-man squad to kind of cheer yourself up, you're going but these guys are
they could do
amazing.
it. They could show up and do it. They're still going to have a World Cup camp all together. They're still going to be.
And you're still looking at their sevens and the Olympics and stuff and going it's a rugby field. A 15 Fijians on a rugby field. Yeah. They can make anything happen against anyone. They're dangerous.
But there's no question that it's heartbreaking news.
It is.
And
it's dreadful.
It's.
But then you do have good news as well. You had the very good news that could cheer you up no matter what.
Go on.
Cian Healy's re-signed for Leinster.
Yeah.
That's him.
This is like I feel like I have enough non-partisan points in the bank in terms of just talking about rugby that I can get away with making this point without being partisan. But there is no question in my mind that Cian Healy is the best loosehead ever to play rugby.
Yeah.
He's an insanely good loosehead. If you don't think so, you need to watch him more. He's as a scrummager, he's incredible. But his all-around play, his longevity, he has been a phenomenon. And
he's ballooned up. He's shrunk down.
He was the best Leinster player in the Matt O'Connor era. There's an argument that he's been the best Leinster player this year.
Yeah.
Doesn't get enough love. He's been phenomenal. For Ireland as well, he just never takes a step back.
Yeah.
His scrummaging, he has like a long list of tight heads he's got in the bank, and he's not retiring. We're not talking about him in the sense of a finale. We're talking about him in the sense of him signing on for 2 more years with the IRFU and Leinster and going on to greater things, and he doesn't look like slowing down.
No, he doesn't. It seems like he's got his conditioning right, where he got it wrong for a few years and he was too heavy, and then he was getting ankle problems because he was trying to be as dynamic in the loose as he had been, but he was carrying extra weight, all of that stuff. But now it seems he's at a good balance, and like that fix and give for that try at the weekend was just a little.
He's not as explosive a scrummager in terms of raw power as he was a couple of years back. Like actually in that Matt O'Connor era, like peak Healy scrummaging when he was massive was what he did to Carl Heyman in that Leinster defeat against Toulouse. But Leinster, Toulon, excuse me. But Leinster had like no plays in them that day except for Cian Healy, who every time there was a scrum, Leinster's like, just knock it on, boys, let us scrum. And
it was very top couture altogether.
But I mean, Toulon ended up getting the better of us, but Cian Healy destroying Carl Heyman, another legend of the game, was just one of many names that he's taken over the years. Like Tadzuki and Ngwenya back in the day, taking the names of all the great wingers in the world. Cian Healy has a list of tight heads.
Yeah, it's true. And it's just a great thing from a Leinster and Ireland point of view to have him stay here.
And even perhaps on a big picture scale, bigger news is that David Nucifora has signed on for 5 more years.
Also great. He's such a secret weapon at the IRFU.
Like Australia got Scott Johnson, they should have been throwing everything to get David Nucifora back to his home country.
Johnson is never the answer. Never the answer on Australian rugby. And then that was more news, wasn't it? Was Tolulatu getting himself drunk and then fired.
There's just no good. Like there's a lot of shitty news to come out of Australia in terms of other player behaviour.
Players, what are they like? To be honest, Aussie rugby players, what are they like? I don't know. Any Aussies want to let me know? They seem to be head cases. What are they doing? But so that's another one bites the dust in advance of the World Cup, where they're already stretched thin enough as it is for resources. It seems
like as bad
as and then Curtly, we didn't even mention in Super Rugby, Curtly Beale was making some horror plays as well. It's all coming up, not good. And then Foley throwing intercept passes as well. That's
potentially better news for Fiji or certainly Georgia. In fact, a good little period of off season for Georgia with Fiji and Australia having such problems.
It's true.
So for sure that's a negative, and there's been quite a bit of negative news this week. Lots of retirements and movings on. Obviously that horrible Fiji news, horrible Tolulatu news, whatever's going on with the Crusaders boys,
and similar disciplinary issues in the Leicester Tigers as well.
The last step was Jordan Murphy, who like from minute one has been anything but mature and a level head in terms of how he's conducted himself, and he's now facing disciplinary action for allegedly abusing a match official, which is on brand.
I believe it. I don't doubt that report. Just judging by literally every post-match interview he's given as well has been so salty.
He has been like as bad as Matt O'Connor was. They got rid of him after day one, and Jordan Murphy has been toxic, you would say, at this stage, and needs to be gotten rid of and
hoisted out of it, because then they do repeatedly give away violent yellow cards where they're just
encouraged to by the coach.
It seems like on the training paddock they must be hitting things at weird angles and firing themselves about and being told, boys,
making good hits,
good intensity. And you're going, no boys, no. And
then games happen and penalties happen and defeats happen and
but it was the ref's fault. The ref's fault apparently. That needs to be a total rethink, culture and change, overhaul, because they're still getting crowds. Like it's Leicester Tigers and it's Welford Road and it's such a tradition.
It's iconic
that it's like how the mighty have fallen this season. This has to be the low ebb. if it gets any worse, they're going down.
Yeah,
And like because they're second from bottom.
I don't think they will. I think they'll rebound a little bit.
They should rebound,
but I don't think they'll rebound fully.
I don't think Murphy will be a part of said rebound.
No, and I think he's to par with. I'm not sure if it's been reported.
Poor Johnny May.
Poor Johnny May. Johnny May doesn't belong.
Gloucester's chances would be so much better if Johnny May was on one wing and Thorley on the other.
Yeah,
he was talking about trophies. Not with Leicester,
Not with Leicester, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's sad news as well.
True.
So a lot of negatives really this week, but
and congrats to Danny Cipriani, Premiership Player of the Year.
Yeah, we mentioned it earlier.
Massive
congrats, Danny Cipriani winning Premiership Player of the Year. Right, good call, call
for sure.
Played during the Six Nations, obviously, and played all year and was outstanding all year.
Yeah, so. I think he's grabbed that 2022 jersey off George Ford in our minds.
Remains to be seen whether Eddie will comply with the logic.
Sure. Alex Good could still be at home and Mike Brown could be on the plane. You don't know yet.
I think Mike Brown is done, but you don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the news anyway, and that's the show.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks. That was number 50.
Number 50.
Amazing.
50. Yeah, we got there.
We got there.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks very much for listening. It was a bit of a it wasn't actually that short. We were kind of ticking along now, but yeah, a good one. Domestic championships in Europe all coming to a head, and Super Rugby starting to heat up too soon.
Yeah.
So yeah, soon enough we'll be looking ahead to some of the international rugby upcoming on the other side of the hemisphere, and then onwards to the World Cup.
So the year marches on, the show marches on.
This is it.
Here's to the next 50.
This is it. Yeah. Thanks very much, guys.
See you
soon.
Bye.
Bye. Got it through the ball. Yes.
Well, really top of it. Skim the top of it. That was terrible.
Yeah.
Oof, I win that one.
You do.